In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the overall upcoming pattern, taking a look at major risks of flooding that are looking to continue or even worsen. We've been stuck in an above average precipitation pattern, and we're going to show you today that doesn't look to end anytime soon. Matter of fact, within the next 3 days, we have big time concerns in some of the areas that have seen the most major flooding as of recently. We're also going to be discussing the tropics a little bit, the severe weather, the overall pattern, all things weather, basically, we're going to be going over today. So let's go ahead and zoom in and talk about some of that flooding. So first things first, we're going to be going over these excessive rainfall forecasts from the National Weather Service. And as you can see, for a lot of the East Coast here, as well as some of the Eastern Gulf areas, we do have a 5 to 15% chance of seeing excessive rainfall. That same number goes for a lot of areas in New Mexico, Western Texas, areas of pretty big concern, as well as areas for the Central Plains and even up into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. We do have two 15 to 30% chance areas, one here for a lot of Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, and then one here for Missouri, Iowa, Northern Illinois, and Southern Wisconsin. So that is where the excessive rainfall is a little bit more likely. Let's change this over to day 2 and see the most concerning day in my opinion. All right, day 2, and we do have a chance still for this East Coast area, also some of the Great Lakes as well, with a 5 to 15% chance area, but we have a 15% chance, let's zoom us in here, for parts of New Mexico, Texas, and even Oklahoma, as well as some surrounding states there, as you can see. But these are the areas that are our main concern, and they've seen the most flooding recently, and now they have a pretty mid-level chance of seeing some excessive rainfall on top of what they've already seen recently. The dirt, obviously, because of how much rainfall there's been, cannot handle the rainfall like it typically would be able to. So if they do get excessive rainfall, it is not going to be pretty. So that is our main concern here for many areas that have dealt with already excessive amounts of rainfall, is the ground cannot accept it the same way it would normally be able to because it's already waterlogged. Huge issues when that happens. And finally, here's day 3. And as you can see, we have a little bit of a chance there in Florida, especially central and southern Florida. We also have this area stretching from New Mexico, Texas, all the way through parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast there. But once again, we do have these two mid-level risks, one for the Mid-Atlantic up through into upstate and kind of central New York, and then one here for Texas and Oklahoma again for a second day in a row. Really not a good look. So let's talk about overall the next couple of weeks and discuss why I think that this is going to just kind of continue through at least most of the month of July here, maybe even beyond. So here is our 6 to 10 day precipitation forecast from the Climate Prediction Center. And as you can see, first off, it's days 6 through 10. So that would be the 17th through the, 20th here. And as you can see, a lot of these same areas, the southeast, the south central states, especially western Texas, New Mexico, into Colorado, and the panhandle of Oklahoma there, have a really good chance to see more rainfall than what's normal for that time period. This is beyond what we've already seen before today on Friday, July 11th. What we expect over the next 3 days, which as you saw, days 2 and 3, look to have a really elevated chance of excessive rainfall. And this is actually after all of that. This gives things no time to dry up, and we actually expect more of the same to maybe prevail here as we move later on towards the second half of June. Now, as we reach the 8 to 14 day period, you can see some good news, is it looks like this area in particular, which is our major area for flooding recently, is thankfully looking to at least be equal chances. So they do lower a little bit on the scale of how much precipitation is expected for the 8 to 14 day period. We do still see a lot of the Four Corner states and even Southern California getting a little bit of precipitation there, and then also the southeast Mid-Atlantic area, as well as some of the Gulf states here, is expected to get a quite good amount as well during that 8 to 14 day period. Now here's the 3 to 4 week outlook. which is looking even longer range. And we can see that these four corner states, especially the western ones like Arizona, Utah there, as well as Nevada and Southern California, do expect to continue to see above average precipitation. And also the Gulf states up through the East Coast also continue to see above average precipitation here. So we'll have to see if this trend continues or doesn't. But it is very good news to not see Texas, most of New Mexico, or Oklahoma included at this point, because these areas certainly do not need it as of now. Now, as we kind of take a look at the tropics, obviously we are moving closer and closer to the hurricane season. We're kind of in the early portion of the hurricane season right now. Things are going to dramatically and very quickly accelerate once we reach August, September timeframe, but we're still in the very early portion where things are accelerating pretty slowly. So we're not expecting to see a very sudden uptick in this activity, at least for the next few weeks. But there is still concerns that we need to go over. There's two primary areas we're going to be talking about today, and that's going to be this homegrown area, which is going to be for kind of offshore of the southeast and for the northern Gulf. This is where most of our systems in June or July develop. So that's the primary area to watch. We are also watching for this MDR, main development region, to start pushing off some waves of concern. So we'll watch for that as well. So let's just kind of move through this model run real quickly. And as we can see, over the next few days, this is at hours, let's see, 141. So that'll be like day 6 time frame. So we're looking at the 17th here approximately. We do see some activity again in that Gulf, in that southeast area. And just like we just saw with Chantel, these can kind of develop at any point. So we've been talking about the midway point of the month, I think, for almost a week now as a time frame to watch on the models. They've been kind of showing this offshore activity sitting pretty stagnant, which is something always to pay attention to. So it would be interesting to see this kind of just continue to be the trend, and we'll have to watch it. But we can see there in the very, very western tips of Africa, we do see some pretty elevated waves that are moving almost offshore now by this point. So we'll really quickly try to get this playing again. And we see they're struggling once they move offshore, but they are moving through Africa and moving offshore, which is kind of the beginning signs of the hurricane season, at least for the MDR hurricane season, to start getting going. We do see continued threats, just little waves and lows that are either going to develop or not going to develop, sitting around this area. And we talked about this in a few videos ago, but when we see day after day after day after day activity just sitting over this area, every single day that it's there, it's really just exponentially growing the risk of something happening, just because, you know, we take the math for what are the odds of this developing for one day of it sitting there, right? And then you times that by 5. Obviously, the odds really dramatically increase. Let's see what happens. I mean, we continue to see activity wanting to sit around that area. This is actually the end of the model run here, so this is the 27th. We still have some strong signals of potential development here. So I think we will see maybe not another system, but I definitely think that we will see 1 or 2 more areas of interest here off the Gulf Coast, off the Southeast Coast, something along those lines. We will see the National Hurricane Center at least post up some % chance that we see some development. That is my current thinking. And of course, if that happens, we inherently do have a risk of seeing a depression or seeing a tropical storm come out of that area. So it's just going to be something that we monitor over the coming days and weeks. Here's how the past 3 days of temperatures have pretty much gone, and we've seen a lot of warmth. Let me switch this back to black real quick, but we've seen a lot of warmth for most of the West. Actually, the coolest area in the West has been the immediate West Coast, along areas of California, Oregon, Washington, and even there in Western Canada. We've also seen some cooler anomalies here over the South Central states, where it's just been a bit cooler than what's typical. For these areas, it gets really, really hot, so I'm sure you guys are enjoying those, 5 to 10 degree below normal temperatures because, normal isn't so comfortable. The East as a whole has been quite neutral. The further towards the East Coast you go, it looks like it's been warmer. The further inland you go, it's been a little cooler. But if we take this area, the mean average of all of it, it's probably pretty neutral. Looking towards the upcoming storminess here, I'm going to just kind of segue into this. And as soon as this afternoon, I mean, we see the precipitation all over the place. Again, a couple of areas to watch according to those excessive rainfall outlooks is the kind of northern plains upper Midwest here. The East Coast as a whole is somewhere to watch. And we're seeing a smaller risk for these areas in here as of today. But tomorrow is the primary threat for them that we really need to watch for, because we see a low here north of the Great Lakes. We see a stretching cold front, and it's not moving too quickly, especially on the southern end. And we just see heavy rainfall sitting around for New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, Arkansas, Louisiana, especially these areas, but really especially because of these areas where we've already seen flooding in Texas and New Mexico. I really want people to pay attention, very close attention, because we've already seen the flooding. They can't handle any more rainfall, yet we have some moving in tomorrow, and quite heavy rainfall that might last hours and hours and hours. It's really just a bad combination. We can also see that the Midwest and Great Lakes here is an area to watch where they're expecting quite a bit of heavy precipitation. And the East Coast as a whole. The East Coast is starting to get waterlogged as well. We had flash flood warnings in effect almost all day here in southeastern Virginia. And I know the day prior we had quite a bit of them in central Virginia. So some of our mid-Atlantic states and southeast states are starting to become waterlogged as well. And they expect a lot more precipitation to come in. That's going to be bad for this area too, and it's going to be something to pay attention to. The East Coast is not as susceptible to like flash flooding like we are in these areas in the south central states or in the southwestern states, but it can occur, especially when we see this excessive amount of precipitation. So we're going to be monitoring it regardless. We've already seen the flood warnings and washes and advisories, so it is happening. Sunday on the 13th, we again see areas in here seeing heavy rainfall. I do not think it's as bad as Saturday. The worst part might be that it's after Saturday, so you get all that precipitation Saturday and then maybe some additional precipitation Sunday. But as far as pure raw amount of precipitation, I think Saturday is the bigger day of the two. We do see this extend up the East Coast as well, where things are a little bit heavier here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. I want to take a look at Monday on the 14th because we really don't slow down too much. The East Coast as a whole seeing heavy thunderstorms up and down from southern Florida, probably the Florida Keys, all the way up to the northern tip of Maine. So the East Coast, as you can see, is just fully saturated with heavy thunderstorms for Monday on the 14th. We also see quite a bit of precipitation and thunderstorms popping back up for New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas, Missouri here. Really not a good look. Tuesday on the 15th, we still have scattered and isolated precipitation around for these areas, but it is a little less bad than the days before it. The southeast is kind of a primary area to watch for Tuesday the 15th. Also, the northern Rockies here, as well as the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, also feature quite a bit of heavy thunderstorms and overall precipitation around for Tuesday on the 15th. Wednesday on the 16th, it all starts to kind of come together. We have just a lot of precipitation for a huge swath of the nation, starting in the central Rockies into the northern and central plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, and then it really connects with this area in the southeast as well, where there's heavy thunderstorms present for very many areas within this blob that I've just drawn in. Thursday on the 17th, thankfully we're drying up considerably over these four corner and south central states, which is our, again, number one area of concern here. The southeast, Ohio Valley, a lot of the Midwest, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, all of these areas seeing heavy thunderstorms for Thursday on the 17th. Friday on the 18th, we see a lot of this move back over primarily the eastern states here, especially the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic appears to have heavy rainfall occurring. Texas is a little drier for Friday there on the 18th, but we do see the four corner states again. So New Mexico, Arizona, we're going to be watching very closely, Colorado, and even up into Idaho, Colorado, or Wyoming and Montana, although I'm pretty sure they haven't had a whole lot of precipitation recently, so not as big of a concern up there. But if we see this day after day after day, it might become one. Saturday on the 19th, the West as a whole is a lot quieter. We do see areas of precipitation in New Mexico, areas in Wyoming and Montana there, but it is much better. We do see a low here with a little bit of a cold front for the Midwest and some of the central plains, and that's going to be another heavier precipitation area to watch for. Eastern seaboard, once again, seeing a lot of activity. Sunday, very similar, mostly the east. Monday, the 21st, very saturated in the east. But here's the problem. 998 here, dragging cold front, kind of swinging down. This is going to bring probably another round of heavier precipitation to much of the nation here. So let's see what happens by Tuesday, and we see it around for the plains and Midwest. And thankfully, that low kind of swirls back up into more northern Canada, because if it really moved down, we would see big problems. But we see some precipitation along the central plains and Ohio Valley there by Wednesday the 23rd. Thursday the 24th, it is starting to move down into the more southern plains, deeper south and east coast areas. And then finally, this kind of arrives for the southeast by Friday on the 25th. We also see the monsoon activity there. The Four Corner States really ramps back up for Friday. So this is going to be something that we're back and forth on, and going to see a lot of activity there over the coming weeks, unfortunately. Total precipitation is starting to become even more elevated for areas of the Midwest and plains, as well as this East Coast area in general. This is more than we've seen over the last few days, so this is looking more and more active. Overall, the anomalies of precipitation here, we do see parts of the upper Midwest, the lower Midwest, the southern plains, the southeast, all the way up into the East Coast. All of these areas are really seeing above average precipitation overall for this time of year. And again, we don't really need it in these areas especially, and we're getting it either way. So really unfortunate stuff there. With all that being said, we upload every single day, and I plan on keeping you guys up to date with all of these things over the coming days and weeks as we kind of just navigate it together and figure out the more specifics, especially when we can see a return to a drier pattern. That's going to be at the forefront of all of our minds. So we're going to be investigating this daily together. So I hope to see you guys here again. You can hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.